Hello Internet, my name's Dale, and welcome to Sceptic's Guide to Enlightenment, a place I share things I've learned in hopes that it can help someone else. Now, I know videos like these are a dime a dozen, but I just hope that maybe the way I say something is helpful to someone. Now, today I want to talk about depression, and ultimately what's helped me with my depression has been to focus on why I'm here and the reason for it. It's like, I feel the general consensus of most people is that we're born here to enjoy ourselves. To work as little as possible, get as paid as much as possible, and advance our own personal interests. We live in such an individualist culture that we're asking for way too much and given way too little. Everything today is focused on exploiting each other. You know what I mean? We want more for doing less, and almost everyone lives in a fantasy which assumes this material existence is here to produce millionaires. To live beyond our means and never suffer for it. To be unhappy with what we have thanks to all this in-your-face advertising. This is a problem. And the chances of everyone becoming enlightened is pretty slim. Think back to when our grandparents were young, or even earlier than that, when it seemed people were more accustomed to living in moderation. But now living in moderation is looked on like some kind of penalty by some people. It's like, if we go back even further and think about like a prehistoric man, then I like to imagine that even they had some sort of basic gratitude for the earth, for like looking after them, keeping them fed. Whereas now it's like we resent the fact the earth can't give us every luxury we want. This is a twisted way of thinking, and it is designed to cause stress. Now, our bodies are great at telling us what's wrong. Fear, anxiety, panic. These things are working everywhere in society. So if we want a chance to fix this situation, then the solution rests with ourselves. We can't depend on our family, well, some people don't even have families, but we can't depend on our friends or society or anything to change for the better. But we can change ourselves and how we react to the world. And no one can prevent us from changing if we want to. If you're stressing about a situation like if you've tried a diet 16 times and you're still overweight, or if you're single and you can never get a girlfriend, then these people need to sit down and face reality. We have to have our happiness from within. We need a sincere desire to solve the emotional and mental issues that we face internally. Focus on getting rid of the attitudes that destroy our health, happiness, and peace of mind. Growing up, I always expected education would give me the intelligence I needed. But school doesn't teach us about our mental and emotional faculties. I'll reserve my view on schools for another video. But for now, I'll just express that the trouble I find with education is that it assists us to adjust to what is wrong. Basic education tells us that the world is as it is, adjust to it or suffer. I mean, sure, it can help us create an art or a trade for ourselves, which is great, but children weren't meant to learn by sitting down quietly in a classroom. Education does not give us the internal resources needed to control ourselves. Education assumes that if we study hard enough, graduate hard enough, then we can live a pretty reasonably comfortable life. Now, that might have been true once upon a time, but it certainly isn't the case nowadays. Let me tell you. Anyway, so if education doesn't help with our internal resources, then what else is there? Religion? Yeah. Religion tries to explain that there are values more important than material success. Now that's great. But this would be more convincing if so many beliefs didn't themselves seem to be working towards material success. But Other than that, religion seems dedicated to principles, to make us understand why we need rules in order to be happy. That we have a power working on our side, providing we behave ourselves. But by far, my favourite thing that comes out of religion is the instrument of faith. Now, faith does a lot of good for a lot of people. It can help them, it can help encourage them, it can help people get past very difficult times, and no one can deny that. But the problem with religion is that people who try this method become delusioned in one way or another, either from not believing in it or to taking it to extremes. So what can help with our emotional and mental well-being? What can accurately tell us what mental gymnastics we need to cultivate in order to be happy, to forgive quickly, and to not hurt? What about psychology? Sure, it can explain why we have these internal problems, but it can't always persuade us to change our ways. You see, those with emotional and mental depression are a bit like alcoholics. They know it's unhealthy, but they can't always change the negative habit. And we begin to develop attitudes as infants, and by the time we're adults, these attitudes control us. We become run by the pressure of our own mental and emotional resources. And as a result, we gain an inability to face the facts. We go on fulfilling minor ambitions until we just finally wither away and die. And here we go, death, another realm of uncertainty. Some people believe that they reach a better life after death, that somewhere in existence there's a reward for all the suffering they do here. I wonder then how this afterlife would react to the fact that most of us are the cause of our own suffering. Like, how would universal justice figure this one out? I don't know. But my point is that we need to learn how to live with minimal stress. It's important for our health and our happiness that we use as little energy as possible repenting our actions. We should try to live within our means and not be constantly irritated by those who are doing better than us. It's like plenty of people learn to play the musical instrument, but not everyone becomes masters. The thing is, you don't need to be a master to enjoy it. This is something that I've learned recently. I started studying how to write via like Google and YouTube, and trust me, this is the most enjoyable way to learn anything. But basically, I'd watch a video on creative writing, and I'd reward myself for watching that one video. Now, I know that might sound silly, but I do reward myself for a moderate success. Say I even write 2 lines today, I'd reward myself again. Because even though 2 lines isn't much, it's still 2 lines more than I did yesterday. Thinking in this way beats realizing that I'm not a pro, and it will keep me happy enough to keep improving. We should treat our emotional and mental well-being as something that should be studied too. And by enjoying a moderate success, this is a good way to get out of our stress, by becoming more pleasant with ourselves. We're all a little different, but this difference doesn't mean it's necessary for us to suffer. We need to live within our own means. And this doesn't just mean financially either. It means to live within your own capacity, to live on a level upon which we're comfortable and free as much as possible from pointless worries and anxiety. We've got to look within ourselves and figure out what's necessary and what's luxury. Because the person who buys what they don't need is bound to regret it in one way or another. Shopping is not the basis of happiness, people. It will likely just lead to more worry and anxiety. I've found actually that by removing some of my luxuries, and for me that's my video game consoles, including my DS, which I'm still coming to terms with, has resulted in an improvement in my inner well-being. I find that I'm studying more, handling my responsibilities quicker, and learning how to commit myself to transform my love of playing video games into an even greater love for drawing, or at least a more highly addictive love for drawing. It's all about mental discipline. So with drawing, I treat it like each minute passed is an enemy defeated or an experience point. Each hour done is a new stage or a level up. It's that same method, rewarding moderate success. And I got all of this from a Robert Greene book called Mastery, and it's amazing. It's amazing. He will change your relationship to boredom. But yeah, I know it seems like I'm talking about something else now, but I'm still talking about mental discipline, which does carry over to depression. Now, okay, so I'm not telling you to sell all your video games. I'm just suggesting you find some way to curb your appetite. We spend a lot on entertainment, but this kind of spending is going to lead to difficulty in one way or another. We need to spend time to organize ourselves, have a clear understanding on what we need. And I know it's easy to say things like this. Like, we can also instantly imagine how much better people we'd be if we didn't drink, smoke, waste time and money. Look, all I'm saying is, it's worth a while to sit down and analyze yourself, organize yourself. Pay attention to what you're doing and why you're doing it. See, this is why a lot of people hype about meditation, because you're pretty much doing this here. But like I've said before, meditation isn't what's important. Meditation is just an art created in Asia around choosing to relax. It's like healing time for your brain. That's science fact, baby. It's worth checking that out. I might put a few links in the description. And back in the day, it took that scientific proof for me to have even practiced meditation in the first place. It's a great time to organize yourself, spot what you're doing and why you're doing it. Choosing to relax is what's important. Every now and then, as often as you're comfortable, to just sit down and ask yourself if you're happy, and if not, what can be done to change this. And even if you just try doing this once today, then that's once more than you did yesterday. Or you could even do the accept and reject exercise as well. And if you didn't see the earlier video, basically this exercise is, if you get a bad thought, like a self-doubt, anything negative, you say to yourself, either in your head or out loud, I reject that thought. And then try and forget about it, just carry on with what you're doing. And if you get a good thought, you do the opposite, you say, I accept that, and then you forget about it. And the purpose of this is to create healthy habits for the subconscious part of our minds. Honestly, that has been one of my greatest defense against stress. All I'm trying to say is that a high standard of living depends on what we are, not what we have. There will always be someone who has more than us. But who knows? They might have more worries than us. But there is one thing that's reassuring, that less we do have, the less we can lose. Which is nice. But seriously though, there are false values of all kinds that are being rewarded by society. It teaches us that these values are worth sacrificing our integrity for. It just seems to me that everyone is depressed in one way or another, just some more extreme than others. And there's plenty of causes for feeling horrible, but it's worse when we make our own reasons for feeling horrible. It's bad enough facing the real problems. And I think one of the problems is, a lot of us are always looking for someone or something else to blame. It's like we're frightened everywhere. There's a conspiracy. Every religion, political system, industry seems to be corrupt and being used to destroy our peace of mind. So the only answer lies in us having an indestructible peace of mind. No matter how many worries, the real problem lies with ourselves. So we have to look at ourselves. If we're nervous, why? What do we dislike? What makes us jealous? What annoys us? Why do we hold on to ambitions and cravings that are unreasonable? Would it really make us happier if we got that bigger house? You know, we spend a lot of time thinking, so devote some of it to making adjustments to how you think. Pay close attention to yourself in this way, because all that selfishness is contrary to how nature does things. And it's worth making time to go out into nature too, to realize that if we're not content with this, with Earth, then there really must be something wrong with us. We like to assume that there's something wrong with the system, but the system is just a lot of us. It's a collective picture of our own personal attitudes. In my days of researching conspiracies, I found myself getting lost, finding an escape and putting the blame in the wrong directions, and pretty much forgetting myself. I quickly learned that if I had time to study conspiracy theories, then I had time to study history. And I really recommend studying history. You'll gain a better understanding on people, cultures, it will make you more tolerant. But so while I was blaming the system, I was ignoring my own weaknesses. I didn't even recognize that I had any. One thing I did notice though, that people who were diagnosed with depression tend to go on some kind of drug. But I was lucky, I figured meditation does the same things that those drugs do, which is to slow down the mind. The problem with those drugs is that the idea isn't to cure the problem, it's to block the symptoms. And then we find we're allergic to those drugs, or medicine. We kill ourselves in order to avoid thinking. And there's all kinds of ways to escape from thinking, most of them being drugs, or even TV. We find people living in distasteful ways simply to escape the problems of life. How much effort are people making to improve their own mental capacities? What effort is made to create a better life with less anxieties? How much effort do people put on their emotional intelligence? That it's better to be kind than right. What do we do? Seriously, let's go through this. We come home from a hard day somewhere. We don't want to work anymore. We want to play. So we turn on the TV, watch all the entertainment, watch the rapes, murders, and drama, either real or unreal, and programs dedicated to ruin the reputations of celebrities. Then we go watch some more murder, rape, and carnage. It's like the only thing we react to. But it's fine coming home to play, but there's no reason why play can't be constructive, why we can't make play enjoyable and useful. Now, I didn't know much about the Italian Renaissance until Assassin's Creed 2. And then when me and my brother saw this drama about the Borgias, we were like, oh my god. Can you see with the excitement and how we were emotionally invested into the subject that we actually had an interest to learn about it? We have a mind. We can spend time to discipline it. Practice makes perfect. Any improvement, no matter how slight, should be rewarded. If we lack any clear motive in life, our minds can spend its time wandering a sea of insecurities, which is much worse than nothing. When we don't feel good, we let it show. When we're angry, we explode. We have no patience to respond to how we feel, rather than blindly reacting to them. But we have a mind. That means it can grow. We can spend time using it properly and save ourselves from the complete waste of mental energy. Patience is a skill. Treat it as such. We can't afford to waste time on stress. Like I keep saying, give yourself time to relax and think. Think without pressure. Relax away from those stupid thoughts. Everyone has the ability to be quiet. And there isn't any situation where we can't be quiet. To be calm. We need to make a long-range plan for our life. Something beyond just living from one vacation to the next. There's a reason for you being here beyond just being promoted. Figure out what the things are you want to do, the things that will make you and hopefully other people happy in the process. Because all that will matter when we die is the person we've become. Regardless what you believe, nature seems primarily concerned with growth. We're here to grow, not to satisfy our egos. The quicker we can fulfill our responsibilities without putting them off, the better off we'll be. See, the person who holds on to broken attitudes long enough leads into an increasingly more terrible habit. The person won't worry because of something, they'll worry because they can't help but worry. The problem will no longer become important. Negative attitudes threaten both the health and peace of mind, leading ultimately into a mental illness. Of course, the earlier we spot these negative attitudes, the better. A child who is a bully will grow into an adult that's a bully. If you don't get that out of him when he's young, then it will take it into adulthood. So the moment we're able to spot a negative attitude, any behavior that doesn't serve us, we need to work it out. One of the things we could all do without is prejudice. It opens the person up to every kind of negative propaganda. It destroys peace of mind and cuts us off from some very kind, friendly, important, and useful people. Another thing we could consider is to moderate our ambition, because the truly ambitious are never happy with moderate success. Basically, your mind needs to be a sentinel, ready to evaluate your behavior, ready to evaluate your patterns and habits, to work out problems fairly and reasonably. Because if we're lazy, our minds will no doubt encounter difficulty. And sometimes we worry because everyone is worrying. Damn those mirror neurons. But if you ask someone why they're worried, what evidence do they have to support them being worried, more often than not, you won't get a clear answer. You'll likely get some generalized opinion like, the world is a mess and everyone knows it. But that attitude depends largely on how other people are feeling. But there's loads of things that can cause stress. Another one, if it doesn't work out for you, is love. What is love? I don't know. No one knows. But I think we can work with it best when we give out more affections than we demand. I think we need to love ourselves, not in a verbally arrogant way. I mean internally. Arrogant people are irritating. It all requires a great deal of thought, because when love doesn't work out, all kinds of negative emotions spring up. So everything then depends on you, again, to figure out as quickly as possible that there is no use in wasting time and energy on worry or heartache. Some people can hold on to these negative emotions for years. Oh, everything's ruined. We focus here and avoid doing any actual constructive thinking. We don't realize that the entire emotion of love is controllable by ourselves. We can transform a problem that arises. Transform a problem. Well, what's that? What do I mean by that? I'll give an example, and an honest one too. My last relationship, if it can indeed be called that, as we hadn't even met, it was long distance. It was with a girl who had seriously been betrayed by men, and I mean that. She was in a dark place. And I tried to help her with her insecurities, enough for her to find the confidence to pull a sexier man. Story of my life. I'll be honest, man, my first thought was, I did all this talking, all this listening, and another man gets to... Oh, I felt betrayed. But I noticed that my love then came with some conditions, and that was sex. I've learned more since then, and when I think about it constructively, I could focus on the fact that our time together made her confident. Confident enough to go out and get a man, because that was a far cry from what she was like when I met her. I can be happy with that because it's a good thing. Besides, they're not important enough to hate. This is what I mean by transforming a problem. When I meditate on the problem, I can realize that I could just behave like this all the time. Whenever I see anyone who is down or not happy, I can try and do what I can for them, while bearing in mind my own nervous energy. Why should this behavior of mine come with any conditions? Now, this is a better way of thinking about the situation and grasping all the good I can from the situation. Heck, I can meditate on this further. I can notice a pattern in the type of girls I have gone for. All women aren't bad. It's just some women I've been close to have been bad. So it'd be smart for me to now look out for red flags. And also, there's no use trying to figure out why anyone does anything evil or vindictive. Don't waste that time. Save yourself from that mental torture because you won't figure it out. So basically, if I could sum up what I learned from this experience, it'd be that I'd rather be understood more and loved less, and I'll have to learn to figure her out less and love her more. So again, I can be happy I dodged a bullet and gained some values that will help me in the future. Admittedly, it sounds so simple saying things like this. And when I was upset, I spoke to my friend and I was like, I can't remember exactly how I explained it, but I expressed that I've meditated, analysed myself, given myself time to relax, and I'm still pretty angry, still pretty hurt, this isn't working. And she told me, some thoughts are like food. You have to give them time to digest before they pass. And I thought this was so freaking deep, it just made those mental switches click in my head. So I went home, shouted, ranted, and also, as often I was smart enough to do it, I meditated, checked on how I was behaving. I tried to get comfort in the fact that this feeling will pass, and it will pass quicker the better my thinking is. Everything that hurts us most has a lesson that will make us better. We're going to bump into anxiety at one point or another, but we should have an anxiety directed at a solution. When we see a problem, our first instinct should be, what does this problem mean to me, and how can it make me a better person? Instead of thinking that the experience is unfair, it's more like a challenge. We're here to grow. We're here to be happy. Exercise your willpower by transforming negative aspects of your personality into constructive ones. Find reasonable solutions and tackle them as immediately as possible, so we can go through life without scarring our minds. It's perfectly reasonable for us to day by day make gradual improvements and reward any that we make. And I just want to say, if you listen to all of this, then thank you so much. Thank you so much for watching this video. And I really hope anything I've said is of value. You've been brilliant. Seriously.